the Hi, I'm Buzz Eggleston. I'm with Calaveras Enterprise, and I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Especially on short notice, we put this announcement out on Friday, and we weren't certain what our turnout would be, but I appreciate every one of you who came down here. I want to also tell you that there are some other candidates nights coming up for this district, District 4. Murphy's is going to have one next Monday night. Town Hall is the Murphy's Community Club, and I got word today that the Chamber of Commerce will have one in this room again on September 25th. And what details about that in Friday's newspaper. Before we get started, though, I'd like to introduce to you tonight Mindy Bach. She's the daughter of Bob Bach, who's a former county superintendent of schools, and she's here tonight as part of the committee on Measure K. I've asked them, made the opportunity available for them to come here tonight and present you an information statement about Measure K. So, Mindy.
Thank you very much. I've been reminded by the candidates that I am just an appetizer before the meeting's empty, so I will be quick, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to present this to you tonight. It kind of underscores the import of this bond. I'm going to just give a few brief comments about the nuts and bolts of the bond and speak briefly then about how this will affect us as a community. First, I want to underscore that it's been nearly 40 years since a bond measure for the Bret Harte School District was on the ballot. So this is a bond measure that was passed unanimously by the school board last spring. Measure K is a school improvement facility bond measure authorizing $18 million in school improvement and upgrades for our high school students. The majority of this campus, which includes classroom facilities, was built 38 years ago, and although the school has been well maintained over the years, the district has reached the point where many of these classroom facilities are inadequate and outdated. Tonight we're fortunate enough to sit in this beautiful theater structure. As many of you recall, this is not a result of a bond measure, this is a result of a fire and insurance money that happened in 1994. And we certainly as a community reap the benefits of having this facility on the campus. If voters approve Measure K, Bret Harte High will receive 4 new science laboratories, 4 new classrooms designed for special needs students. Existing science laboratories will be modernized to meet current standards. Deteriorating portable classrooms will be removed. And an aquatic center with a swimming pool will be constructed for both the school use and the use of the community. Measure K will also provide upgraded heating and air conditioning systems and will include funding for future classrooms and joint use projects on the site the district currently has in Paparopolis. The cost for Measure K to homeowners will be $12.20 per $100,000 in assessed valuation. So that's the nuts and bolts of the ballot. Again, Bret Harte has not put a ballot measure on our ballot for over 30 years, nearing 40 years, so it's time. And one of the reasons I'm here, not only was my father the county superintendent of schools, but I was a graduate of Bret Harte High School. As I perused the facilities since being back in Calaveras County, I've noticed that many of them are unchanged since I was here. I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it's been several. When I was here, we had one swim meet a year. We would all just kind of gather together, no practice, travel to Calaveras, jump in the pool, flail around, and try to win a few medals. Thankfully, 20-some odd years later, we have a swim team at Bret Harte High School. However, we have no pool. So they again travel to Calaveras to practice and are at the mercy of the Calaveras Redskins as to scheduling and practicing. And for those of us who are natives and have grown up in this county and know a little bit about rivalry, we don't like to be at the mercy of Calaveras High School for anything. So we live a stone's throw from the Silicon Valley, the leader in the world in innovation. However, you look in our science classrooms, we have students that are motivated to learn, we have teachers that are motivated to teach, we have curriculum that is fantastic, and we have facilities that cannot meet those needs. We live a stone's throw from the place that has created innovation for the world, but we don't have the facilities to prepare our students to be part of that innovation. For those of you who don't have children in school, and I'm one of those, I have young children, they're not at Red Heart yet. For those of you who don't have a vested interest in coming to activities at Red Heart, I want to underscore the fact that the Aquatic Center is open for community use. Our community pool at Angels Camp, I was just reminded by one of your candidates, is being held together by bubble gum and baling wire, and can probably be one of those places that there's a new technology that converts algae into oil. You can probably use it for that. So the community use on this new pool is for all of us, whether you're a senior that wants to swim last in the morning, or a parent that wants to bring their child in for swimming, or want to form a club team. That is going to be a fantastic state-of-the-art facility that's going to be heated year-round for all of our use. And for many of you, I've been on these tennis courts, and I've seen many of the members of our community coming and enjoying those. And so we have another facility available to us. And once we do this, and it's been so many years since they've had upgrades in this district, we will be able to prepare the youth that are students that are coming through here to get good jobs that will pay into our tax base, that will pay into your Social Security, my Social Security, into our Medicare systems, and really boost our economy. So I'm hoping that you're inspired to learn a little bit more about Measure K. Again, for less than the cost of a latte a month for most of us, we can have these facilities upgraded, have some of these uses for the community. And wouldn't it be nice to open the paper one day and instead of noticing that your tax dollars had gone to Georgia and not Georgia, USA, in the tune of $1 million, to know that your few dollars that you pitched in have gone to make change in a community that you can also enjoy. So I appreciate your time. Kathy Montefiore was supposed to be here, and I'm going to check and see if she is, but please look in the back. We should have some information there. If it is not, we will be peppering the community with it in the coming days, and we'll have a website available to provide you more information and answer your questions. Thank you for your time.
We have Ed Lark and his crew here tonight from Calaveras Community Television, and this will be aired, I assume, this week on public access TV station. It will also be on our Calaveras Enterprise website, probably by late tomorrow afternoon. I have here seated with me the District 4 candidates. To my far left, and I can't say that very often, Tom. Tom Tryon, thank God for that. Tom Tryon and Lee Seaton. Welcome to them. The format tonight is fairly simple. I'll ask them to make brief opening statements, 3 minutes. We'll ask questions. I've got some. Up to 3 minutes, and they can respond up to 3-minute answers. I'll alternate who I ask the question to be fair, so neither one of you get hit with the first question constantly. I've been collecting the questions from you in the audience, and if at any time you want to add a question to the list, there's a basket just outside that door there, and feel free to go out there. I've got Maria Adams and Aaron Mitchell from the Enterprise here tonight helping us out. My wife, Karen Nicholson, is helping us out. She's our timer. Again, 3-minute responses. I've also asked the candidates to come prepared with questions for each other. And at intervals tonight, we'll take a moment and we'll say, Lee, do you have a question for Tom? Tom, do you have a question for Lee? And we'll do that as time allows. So with that, why don't we start? Tom, you're the incumbent. Would you give your opening statement, please?
Well, it's a pleasure joining everyone here this evening for this candidate forum. I am the incumbent. I've been on the board as of this January. It will be 24 years, which is 6 terms. I started back when I ran the first time. It was 1983, and then I assumed office in January of 1984. So obviously, if you want to look back in your history books and see where we were 24 years ago, it's considerably different than where we are today. I think we've made a lot of progress. I think the City of Angels has made a lot of progress. The City of Murphys has made a lot of progress. There's been progress made in Douglas Flat and Vallecito. Hopefully we will be able to continue that progress, and one of the keys to that progress is infrastructure. One of the reasons I think that District 4 tends to be somewhat advanced over the other districts is that I have had a very strong emphasis on infrastructure in my terms in office, and I think that's one of the absolute keys to accommodating the growth and still maintaining many of the values that we cherish. I'm not in favor, spoken out strongly against what I refer to as rural sprawl, which is where we do these subdivisions on dirt roads with with septic and wells. I think we need to consolidate our growth in the community centers on sewer, water, roads to standards, walking trails, etc. I'm fourth generation from Angels Camp. My wife Denise, who is also in the audience and joined us here this evening, is a fourth generation resident of Murphy's. Her parents still live there on Watkins Street in Murphy's. We have 3 children, Elizabeth, Kate, and Walter. All 3 graduated from Bret Harte High School. Both my wife and I felt that they received a very fine education here. Elizabeth, the eldest, went on to Stanford and graduated. Kate went on to Santa Clara and graduated. And Walter's a student at the University of Oregon up in Eugene, and he's still in school. And I'm very much looking, we're an empty nester now, but I'm waiting to quit paying for college education bills. And I have 1 more to go, and it looks like maybe probably a year and a half to go. So hopefully there's light at the end of that tunnel. I'm very proud of Angels Camp. I'm very proud of my family history here. I'm proud to live in Angels Camp. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Lee? Well, my wife and Marilyn and I moved here. We actually had an unusual way of coming to Angels Camp. We came up for a weekend, and we literally fell in love at first sight. We purchased property that time and started constructing a house with the intention of eventually coming to Angels Camp. The more we came up and the more people we met, people that I've met again here this evening in many cases, we've said, why are we hanging around down there in the redwood forest? Let's move now. So we accelerated our plans and came to Angels Camp literally years before we had originally intended. And I'll tell you, the getting out of the drip of the redwood forest was a motivational fact, but it was really the people and the quality of life, not just in terms of weather and in terms of the ambiance and things, but the community. Church, school, neighbors, associations, all of these are vibrant, alive, and engaging. One of the things that we noted was that people were open to newcomers coming and sharing in the joy of living in this area. That became a really strong motivation to seek to serve our neighbors and our community. And we have done that since we came. I worked for a period of time in the Head Start program in the Amador-Tuolumne Community Action Agency, and not as a teacher, but as a technologist. I basically conducted planning and computer introduction of those kinds of technologies from the Silicon Valley, where I had worked for 20 years at Hewlett-Packard, and Marilyn worked at Hewlett-Packard in Agilent. We brought some of those skills with us, and we put them to work in the community. I also looked at public service as an opportunity, and originally applied for a planning commission opening. But it was suggested I go ahead and apply for the city council because there was a vacancy there also. And I did, and Dorian Fott and I had the famous coin flip, which I think I lost because Dorian did get the council seat, but subsequently I was appointed unanimously by the board, or by the council, to join them, and I've been on that council approximately, I'll be finishing up about 7 years. That's close enough to 2 terms. And I'll tell you, I think 2 terms is good enough for anyone. And I feel that that is, I'm just self-imposing that term limit. I think it's up to the public to make those choices in other races. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to begin with a question of mine. And let's start with Lee. This year has seen a lot of controversy in county government. What lessons have been learned?
Well, it's a challenge to know whether they've really been learned or not. I was at the board meeting on Tuesday. The board was reviewing the opportunities and issues document as part of the general plan process, and what I saw was a board that did not agree on what the general plan process was. I don't even think they agree on what the general plan is. Yet it's a state mandated document. It must contain the required elements, and the board has expanded the number of elements that they're considering, but much of the discussion seemed to center around how invasive the process was, yet the process was expanded. So I'm not sure that the lessons of how to come together, how to form public policy. This isn't about egos. This is about how the public's work gets done. And general plans are a required component, both for the city. Some of you may have been at the city council, or the general plan environmental impact statement review that was hosted last night. We had a pretty good turnout there. But it's a required document. Every local government must execute a general plan to serve the public. Again, it's a document to give everyone a heads up as to how land use and many other elements of the community are going to be shaped into the next 20 years or so. That's a basic document. I would have preferred to have seen the board interacting with the consultants on the topics, on the focal issues that the consultants were asking for input on. That's how the board should guide its employees and its consultants, by answering key questions at a policy level. So I'm afraid, Buzz, I don't think that lesson is at least taken hold yet. I certainly hold out the hope that we will be able to have a county government that can come together, have good, honest, heated, sometimes very heated discussions, but at the end of the discussion, you take a vote, and now you have a policy, and now it's moved forward and do the public's work. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, you want me to repeat that question?
Would you repeat it, please?
This year has seen a lot of controversy in county government. What lessons have been learned?
Well, there has been a lot of controversy, I would say, over the last 2 years. And I think one of the lessons to be learned is you need to pay very close attention to who you elect to the board of supervisors from each and every district. I think the problems that we witnessed, department head problems, the board problems, you can lay that responsibility directly on the board. But it takes 3 votes to influence policy on the board of supervisors. It's no secret that we have at this time a very split board on a 3-2 vote, at least on those issues, with Marita and I being on the 2 side, and the other 3 supervisors basically having a majority vote. I think Marita and I were right in our opposition to the actions of the other 3 members. The grand jury looked at that. I think the grand jury basically concurred with that assessment. And one of the things we have taking place today, both in this race and in the District 1 race, is a lot of influence by those supervisors that have a very direct interest in the outcome of the races in these two districts. I would like to touch briefly on the general plan, because that's where Lee met. And apparently, Lee and I were not at the same meeting, because I didn't see all this discord on basically a basic scoping session for the general plan. I don't think it was any different than the city scoping session, or the county scoping session, or the scoping session in Sonora, Tuolumne, or Ann Arbor County. We went over the issues. We pulled the board. Mentier, who's been the consultant, retained to guide the general plan process. At the end, said he had the information he needed. He thanked the board for it, said he would put it in a final form for the board to take action on basically sort of a mission statement as much as anything. It was a scoping and opportunities kind of session. I don't think there was any discord. I would encourage you to look at the community television and find out when last Tuesday's meeting is going to be on community television, but I don't think it was reflective in any way of what Lee is describing.
Tom, let me follow up on that just a little bit. You said there's a lot of influence by other supervisors in this race and in the District 1 race. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, the outcome of these two races are going to have a huge impact on the future direction of the county. And part of it's a general plan impact that everybody is very much aware of. Part of it, I think, is some residual feelings from the grand jury issues and the personnel issues that finally came to a head here in the past 6 months, and I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
But specifically, are they guiding money to campaigns? Or are they doing?
I have no idea if they're guiding money or not. The next reporting period is September 30th, and when those reports come out, assuming they're accurate, everybody will be able to see where financial support is coming from for everybody's campaigns.
Okay, thank you. Lee, I give Tom a minute. Do you want to get in on that?
Yeah. I've worked with all of the current and many past members of the Board of Supervisors. I respect their contribution and their ability to frame the issues for their communities. So ultimately, we all have to be able to work together if we're going to get anything accomplished. So I don't draw arbitrary fences around the people I talk to. And in many cases, just as Tom and I both serve on the Calaveras Council of Governments, it's our obligation to be able to work together effectively. Let's see, I guess I need to deal with the money issue. I'm not taking any money from any political active committee, political action committee. I'm not taking any money from any corporate entity. That could be a labor union or a business. This is my campaign, Citizens for Seton, is a strictly grassroots campaign. I do not seek or encourage contributions from outside the county. It's just, I think this is our business, and it's best if we fund our campaigns locally. I will tell you, my mother doesn't live in the county, but she did make a contribution. I think the idea that there's some hidden hand, again, an accusation that goes without a foundation. I think you need to think hard about that. We live in an era in which misinformation seems to get rapid dissemination. I guess we can blame the web on that. But it's important to ask, is there a foundation for the accusation?
That comes up raises another question that I had on my list, which was, I was looking at the campaign finance reports that were up through June 30th, and I didn't see any real corporate donations. There obviously were some professional associations in the county that I know for certain made some donation in the District 2 race. But there was there was a donation by PG&E in this race and also in the District 1 race, a small donation, $250 in this race. Tom, let me ask you, have you received or do you expect to receive corporate donations in this campaign? And well, I'm going to leave it at that for this point.
Yes, I do. I did receive, I don't know what the amount was, but it was $250 from PG&E. And that's what it was. They had never contributed to a campaign, I don't believe, in the past. It very surprised me when it showed up in the mail. But I'm very thankful for their support. I've raised a considerable amount of money because, quite frankly, I have a lot of support. I mean, Lee can basically say, well, I haven't raised much money, which he hasn't, but he has made significant loans to himself. I think at the last reporting period it was around $15,000, but I stand to be corrected. Lee can probably give the correct number. I think the fair question to ask is, these are not contributions to his campaigns, but loans to his campaign. So what is the repayment source for the loans? Thank you.
Lee, same question. You said you're not taking any corporate. So you're not expecting to take any corporate loans or take corporate donations between now and the election? And any, what about this question about afterwards?
I was just going to volunteer, nor will I take any afterwards. If I have made a bad loan to myself, that will be on my ticket. I'm not going to seek nor in any way connive to create a revenue source for deeds yet unfulfilled or later fulfilled. When I talk about a grassroots support, it's kind of ideally we're talking in something 50, 25. I think if you look at the contributions, I'm not so much concerned about how much money. We'll spend the money that's available for things that we cannot do directly. For example, printing or mailing, those require cash, and those are what we're raising money to do. We're not raising money to curry favor or influence outcomes. It's just to pay the bills that can only be paid with cash. I've been walking the district since before the primary. I think this election is about who can you trust to do the best job for the next 4 years. The challenges that we face now are going to need solutions now. So the money is earned money that comes out of my personal checking account, but that's not there to be refunded by somebody else. I earned the money that I've made in my life. I've spent it as I think is best for my family and the causes that I support.
Just very briefly for the both of you, I'll go back to Tom first, but both of you have received contributions, small contributions from friends and supporters. How would Tom first? How do you describe your supporters? What kind of folks support Tom Tryon?
They're wonderful, God-fearing people. The way I raise most of my money is through my two dinners. I had one dinner in the spring and one in the fall. At the fall, I had by far and away my greatest turnout I've ever had. It was over 200 people showed up. And when I send the mailer out, there's a return envelope and there's a card saying, yes, I'll attend your dinner and encloses a contribution for so many places, etc. Or there's a place that says, I'm not able to attend your dinner, but encloses a contribution for your campaign. And clearly that's, I do it to basically every mailbox that has a registered voter. There's 3 registered voters at one mailbox, and it goes to the family kind of thing. and that's where I raise the vast majority of my money. I do have friends, and I have a lot of family that are outside the district, and I do get some contributions from them, but the vast majority of the funds I raise are either within my district or certainly within the county, but not all.
Lee?
Well, I guess mostly it's people who articulate a concern about the future of the county. As I say, most of the contributions are relatively small. We don't take any cash kind of contributions, just partially because it's kind of an accounting nightmare, but also many people simply, politics is a luxury to them. It's an unacceptable expense that they just simply will or cannot afford right now. I feel that we're in a position where my wife and I are in a position where we can use some of our discretionary money to pay for things like postage. That's where the largest single postage and printing are the largest single expenses, I think, in our campaign. We haven't tried to put on large fundraisers. I think going door to door gives me a better chance to meet people and talk to them about the issues that they're concerned about. The general tone, and we use a document that when people make contributions, we ask them to complete that and ask them if they have any comments. Many of those comments are on our website. The idea is that this is about the people. It's not about me. It's not about my ego or what interest I have as a representative. I've served in Angels Camp for this nearly 2 terms, and I never had to raise any money. But when you go to the district-wide, you have a much larger population. There's more people that you don't have the day-to-day interaction with. So it's important. Money, yes, is important in politics. It's but I think you have to look at where the money goes and what it's being spent on. It's to reach out to the people and to encourage them to think about their future and how they might be able to achieve their objectives with new leadership.
Thank you. Lee, let me get back on track here with a question to you. Change is the mantra of this political season. What kind of change do the people of Calaveras County want, and how would you make it happen if you're elected?
Well, I think the kind of the key term that you hear over and over, whether anywhere in the county, it was perhaps best articulated recently right here in this room with the Joint Economic Development Summit, which is sponsored by the Board of Supervisors and the City Council, to bring together in an action format how are we going to address the economic issues that are confronting our county. They are legion. We have everything from a very imbalanced economic base with significant sales tax leakage. We have challenges in unmet and undercapitalized infrastructure requirements. We have ever expanding maintenance deficits. What do people talk about? Well, they talk about we want to fix all of those things, but we don't want to lose the quality of life. We don't want to, destroy the village in order to save it. We need to find a way of balancing appropriate economic development across a much broader spectrum of enterprises than simply the building industry. We need to fix the impact of development, both in the past and in the future. And we need to do that in a way that expands our economic vitality. By having economic vitality, we make our communities more resilient in up and down cycles. It gives us an opportunity to interact with people when we go to buy underwear being the most common example of what you can't buy in Calaveras County. When people are able to interact together, it's a great opportunity to neighbor. It builds community. I don't hate Walmart or Target or any of those big box formats, but you don't have the same quality of interaction that you do if you go down to Turner's or you go even to Long's. It's nice having people shop together, have opportunities to work together. That's what I think most of the people in the campaign and in the Economic Development Summit are really concerned about, is how do we preserve our quality of life? But let's fix the problems. We can have both the quality and a vibrant economy.
Tom, what kind of change do the people of Calaveras County want, and how would you make it happen if you are elected?
Well, I would be a very strong advocate of what I have been an advocate out here for the last 24 years. We've had lots of growth and lots of change on the Highway 4 corridor. We've had a lot of growth and a lot of change in Murphy's, and it's gone through several development phases. I don't think the citizens in Murphy's would say that the quality of life has deteriorated to the point where they want to leave Murphy's. I think most people are very happy with the quality of life and the growth that's taken place in Murphy's. I think that also applies to Angels Camp. And I think kind of where the city has always been, which is you have to be on sewer, you have to be on water, and you have to have roads up to standards. You have to have walking trails and paths that are interconnected along with roads. That is a mantra that needs to take place countywide. And there has been a deterioration in the quality of life in other districts in the county. And maybe I shouldn't get into specifics, but one of the great things about the Highway 4 corridor is that both I and Rita have been advocates of infrastructure. The projects I supported down in Copper were all based basically on infrastructure. So we don't have the same degree of rural sprawl in Copper that we do, say, in Wallace and Burson and up in District 2, et cetera. So I think we need to accommodate growth, and I think we can do that just as we have done. But it takes very good planning, and it takes some vision and some foresight. We need to protect the Highway 4 corridor. We have way too many entrances and ingress and egress, particularly residential, into the Highway 4 corridor. We need to do more to defend that corridor, and I think we can, particularly when we do the wagon trail project, which is the project between here and Copper. But we're going to get growth, and the question is, how are we going to accommodate it? And if we don't have a plan for it, and you basically just say no, as they did in Valley Springs, which probably has one well-developed community, and that's La Contenta, although they have some more now that are on the drawing books, you end up with just, 5s, 10s, 20s. You have places now like Diamond 20 where they're hauling water in because the wells have gone dry. You have places down by Wallace where they're hauling water in because the wells have gone dry. There's just a woeful lack of infrastructure. And if we're going to say no to development in the communities and to expanding the communities, but doing it with infrastructure and with roads and with walking paths, basically the way we've done it in Murphy's, or at least tried to do it, and I think we've been fairly successful, the way it's done in Angels, we can accommodate that growth. If you want to get into commercial growth, Murphy's, I think, will remain sort of a community that's going to be different than Angels Camp. Angels Camp is on the crossroads of 4 and 49. Angels Camp will have the retail and commercial and financial center for the Highway 4 corridor, as I think it should, and the city should be an active advocate of accommodating that development by planning for it. Murphy's is going to remain fine dining and the arts and wine tasting and wineries and flower shops and weddings and that. And it's developed a very unique character character there. And the character of the two communities are going to be, I think, considerably different. I think they will remain considerably different. But each community has a role to play in our economy. And we all need to step forward and play that role so that we benefit as a community from it and not have basically conflicts between the communities.
Thank you. Tom, I'm going to ask one more question, and I'd like to proceed with some of the questions from the audience. Tom, how do you respond to people who complain that county policies, either in the past or maybe policies that threaten to do so in the future, hurt economic development? And that question where I'm coming from is issues like legal access, slope issues, driveway slopes, and things like that. How do you talk to your constituents about that?
Well, I tell them that basically we have to have infrastructure, and there's certain entitlements that go with development. And if you want to develop, you need to be on public water, you need to be on public sewer, you need to be on roads to county standards, and the roads need to interconnect, you need walking paths, they need to interconnect, and we're planning that on the Murphys. And one of the first basic entitlements is you have to have access. I mean, if you don't have access to your property, what are we allowing that development to take place? And we have lots of development in the county, some in my district, or our district, where, you have homes, beautiful homes, not so beautiful homes. They're on one-lane dirt roads. They don't have legal access, so they have some form, they hope, of restrictive access, but only a court can determine that. You can't build the roads to county standards. They're all on wells, they're all on septic. And when things go wrong, you come to the county and say, well, geez, you issued this building permit, you have an obligation to fix this. I mean, we've people built in the floodplain in Cosgrove Creek, and the homes flood, and they run to the county and say, fix this. And so we go out and we get federal grants and we get other taxpayer monies to fix the problems for the taxpayers that built in the floodplain. We have others that come and say, well, we have a building permit, we want you to use eminent domain or whatever to give us access to our property. Well, you need to do these things. You need to meet the basic standards of development. And if you aren't going to meet those basic standards of development, then don't build there. And quite frankly, I think we should be building in the community centers and expanding the community centers with well thought out growth rather than accommodating rural sprawl. And one of the issues, and it doesn't come up from Dave Self tonight, I'm sure it'll be at Murphy's, is there's a lot more public controversy when you build in the community centers, because that's where the people are. And they don't want that on their scenic view. They don't want that in their backyard. They don't want more traffic in front of their home. They don't want these things. So you don't get a lot of public controversy from rural sprawl. There's nothing out there. But as a development scheme or plan, the rural sprawl will be the death of us, not the salvation of us. Thank you.
Lee, did you understand the question?
Well, I understood the question. I'm not sure I understood the answer. I certainly think the City of Angels is able to plan. We're in the final days, I guess you would say, of the general plan update. It is a very open, has been a very open process, and the community is going to continue to deal with the issues that general plan needs to address in order to provide a coherent plan of action for not only current residents, but people who would seek to join us, or outsiders who would wish to bring either their business or their residency to this area. There are some really serious questions that I'm going to leave Murphy's, because we're going to have a focused issue around Murphy's next week. So I think I'll stay focused more in General Highway, or General District 4 in the City of Angels. But one of the things that I've heard consistently from both people coming in to do a remodel or a fix-up or just paint their house, kind of maintenance type projects, and also from developers who are coming in to do subdivisions or new homes. One of the things they talk about is the contrast between the county and the city. That is that when they come to the city, there's a clear process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Preload follows that process, and the standards for which each of those steps, the decisions or fees or whatever, are to be applied, are clear. In other words, you can come in, you can have a counter conversation, and you will leave knowing what the next set of expectations are, either yours or on the part of the city. It's not a perfect process because it involves humans, but it's a consistently performing process. Contrasted that to the county, what consistently you hear is there is no consistency. It's unpredictable. It depends on who you get when you go in, who's at the counter. It depends on what maybe was the latest flare-up at the Board of Supervisors over whether a project or a policy like legal access is going to be enforced or not enforced, whether we're going to enforce ordinances on easements or not. That we've just gone through a recent scenario where after over, I think, 14 months, there's suddenly a discovery that, well, wait a minute, we can't do that, even though right across the street there is one of that. I'm not being mysterious, that's a sign in Murphy's, but I've said I'm going to leave Murphy's to next week. The issue here is that in the county, people are confused, they're frustrated. It isn't an acceptable business practice. You can't plan your project if you don't know what the requirements are going to be. And it's even worse if the requirements change while you're in the middle of the project. I think that those are the things that really impact the quality of economic development. Right now, building is a huge component of our basis here, both in the city and in the county. And when you're not easy to do business with, developers are going to go elsewhere. Or maybe not. And I do believe we're going to have an economic recovery. I think we're starting to see some of the early signs of that. When we get to that, it'll be even more critical that those processes in the county are consistent and predictable, so the end results can be consistent and predictable with an updated general plan and with the expectations of the community. Those are the kinds of basics that I'm concerned about.
Thank you. Let me return to you, Lee. I'd like to ask one of the questions from the audience. Are you in favor of big box stores on the Highway 4 corridor?
No.
That's what they want to know.
I assume they want to know more than just the no. I'm not in favor of chains. I don't like franchise stores. I much prefer the quality of diverse kinds of locally owned businesses that are downtown in Angels Camp. That's my personal opinion. Generally speaking, I will try to favor those in my decisions. But that's not, I'm not going to impose my opinion or my favorite choices as public policy. The public policy needs to be developed in the community, just as we have been doing in the City of Angels, with community groups working together to develop a reasonable set of guidelines that then can be discussed by a diverse range of the community. Those guidelines can then be taken to the next step. Perhaps if the Planning Commission could adopt them as guidelines that they would use to direct their own activities. Perhaps those guidelines ultimately reach some kind of statute as a city ordinance, that the guidelines have to be considered in project review. But that's a process that we've already begun. I think it's important that we get those things in place before that economic development that may be coming gets here and we find ourselves without any standards to measure the desirability of any particular commercial or residential project. So, personal, I'm not a big box fan, but the public policy needs to be developed by the public as a matter of a due process that affords them the opportunity to express how they want to see the community develop.
Tom, I'm going to, after you answer this, I'm going to let people take a 5-minute break.
Okay. I'm a little bit surprised at Lee's answer, because when he takes after franchises and chain stores, et cetera, he just condemns Save Mart and Rite Aid and Long's and Starbucks and a lot of things in Angels Camp that I think are very good and have been good for the community in Angels Camp. I mean, we all like the mom and pop store, but quite frankly, we all don't go there. And we compete in a marketplace which basically deals with not only price, but volume of goods and services that are available to us. And in the end, we will compete, and I think most likely we'll compete within the city of Angels, or we will go to Tuolumne County. Most of the Highway 4 corridor goes to Tuolumne County to do much of their shopping. As Lee pointed out, we don't have any clothing stores, and I haven't been to the thrift store lately, but maybe Lee can go there and buy his boxer shorts. But we don't have a sporting goods store. We don't have an Urban's. Every time Walter comes home from college, we have to run over to Urban's to buy him some more clothes to send back to Oregon. And every time he comes back, we have to go buy Big Five sporting goods because he wants to get a football or a basketball or whatever the season is at the time he comes back for his next break. When it comes to the so-called big box store, as opposed to, I guess, the small box store or the medium box store, I think it's a question of location, it's a question of design, it's a question of infrastructure. If you plan it correctly, we will meet the needs of the citizens in the Highway 4 corridor. I don't think a super Walmart superstore is coming to Angels Camp. If there's no demographics who would support that whatsoever. It's certainly not going to come to Murphy's or Avery. That's not. And we got to look at the market realities of what we're dealing with. But I think for certain we can deal with the needs of the citizens on the Highway 4 corridor and not be sending all of us over to Tuolumne County to do much of our shopping. So, and to me, it's just absolutely critical that Angels play that role, because if Angels doesn't play that role, it's going to be either Copper or Valley Springs, because those are the other two centers that have a population base that would even come close to supporting any significant retail store. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Let's take no more than 5 minutes, please. I just want to give people a chance to straighten up.
Boy, you're all over it.
Yeah. Perfect. And that's something You're a good man, Charles. How you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Yeah. How are you, John? Did you get the Board of Supervisors? Yeah. So There's no way I can do it. I have a study session. Are you interested in that? Would you start with a right shot? Would you start with a right shot? Sure. And then come on and say, I'm sorry? That's all right. Well, he wasn't a coach. That's right. He was a coach. I guess it was Buzz or something that said something to me. So I asked him about doing it. I mean, I like to give it off to someone else, but I like to personally. But we try to get it as good as possible. But I wanted to ask you, is that the family issue if you're not using it, why don't you bring it back to the studio? And you do the HD? Use it for some or you use it for... Oh, okay. So I don't know, you're using it why are you using it? I don't remember the camera. Well, that's within the year. Well, you should get a bathroom size and do it from the ground. Because if it goes beyond a year, it was very, 12 to 13 or something like that. Good group. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, very enthusiastic. You're feeling much more comfortable. Oh yeah, it's obvious. It's obvious. And that's good. It takes a little while to get used to it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
now I do all the talking, oh my God.
I think it was a huge mistake. No, but I think this is enough. This is all I can do.
You want a 20-second count again? Just as soon as you start talking.
Yeah. Oh, I need the video.
We're doing one for no, it'll be a debate. Yeah, she's going to be the moderator. She is not too confrontational, so I think
Folks, if you return to your seats, please.
I'm sorry. We're going to be sleeping now, I think, on the third or the fourth.
Hey, there he is. Before I came out, this would be a message.
Okay, we'll resume this. Gentlemen, although I've given you 3 minutes, we've got a lot of questions, so in order to expedite it, if your answers are shorter than 3 minutes, wonderful. Okay. But let's get right back to it. I want to tell you folks that I did tell the candidates beforehand that I would give them the opportunity to ask each other questions from time to time. So I would like to do that now and say, Tom, do you have a question for Lee?
Okay, I'll ask a question. The sewer and water rates that the city charges the citizens of Angels Camp are the highest in the county. There's been talk about the city council raising the sales tax in Angels Camp to subsidize the sewer and water rates. My question is, why are our sewer water rates the highest in the county? And is Lee supportive of raising the city sales tax to subsidize sewer and water rates?
Okay, then I'll answer the second part of that because it's the easiest. The answer is no. I have consistently voiced opposition to using sales tax as a subsidy for our water and sewer rates because those are called enterprise accounts. They are municipal businesses, if you wish, and they should stand on their own, as they do today. So I'm consistently been opposed to using the sales tax as a funding mechanism for those accounts. Why are the rates so high? Well, they're high because it costs money to meet state and federal regulations to provide water to our people. We have to treat the water, the wastewater that is collected, and because of being a city with the standards and the visibility of our operations is regulated very closely. Many of you know that we operate a spray field at the south end of town. During the time I've been on the city council, the available acreage of that spray field, that is where we can actually spray the treated water, this is Title 22. It means it's actually safe drinking water, although it would not be ever sold as such. The size of the spray field, the acreage available, has been nearly cut in half. That's been cut by regulations, not by city choice. We've had to modernize the wastewater and water treatment plants, in part because the infrastructure was lagging behind the growth of the city. Since we've been in place, we've been able to increase the impact fees, sewer connection and water connection fees, so that new development does pay for its impact on the water and sewer operations. So the short answer is, I guess what I'm looking for short answers, the short answer is the cost of providing clean water and treating sewage has gone up. Primarily the driver is regulatory requirements.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you a question, one of the questions from the audience. Sierra Pacific Industries has issued new timber harvesting plans that include more clear cutting. This is not good for tourism or for safety. Will you support county logging rules? And I'm sorry, Lee, that should go to you for starters. Will you support county logging rules?
I would support county rules because county rules give the county, the citizens of Calaveras, an opportunity to sit at the table when timber management plans are being developed. In San Mateo, and I mentioned at the beginning that we lived in a redwood forest, that county, which is not a major timbering location, but because of the redwood forest in the Santa Cruz Mountain, does have an active timber industry, small but active. The county has adopted county rules so that this local decisions can be influenced by the local community. I think the county should have a seat at the table when timbering decisions are made in our county.
Tom?
No, I do not. I think it should remain with the Board of Forestry at the state level. There's a lot of science that goes into the harvest plans and the reforestation and the management of the private forest. The county has basically no set of knowledge or facts on which to basically contest the management plans that are reviewed by the State Board of Forestry, where they do have foresters and people assigned to the State Board of Forestry that have the expertise and the scientific knowledge to review these plans. We simply do not. And all we would do, in my opinion, is just create a significant local controversy without ever being able to sort of resolve the issue. And I don't see any point in going down that road.
Thank you. From the audience, and Tom, this is to you, and this is literally to you. How can a libertarian be so opposed to a sign at the Murphy's Hotel?
Geez, I thought that was going to be next Monday. I'm not in favor of neon signs in the county right-of-way. It's not a private property issue. This is out in the county right-of-way. The county has rules that say there will be no signs or poles erected in the county right-of-way for advertising. The idea of taking a tree down, we formed a group in Murphy's that if we take trees down, we're going to replant trees. And to take the tree down in front of the Murphy's Hotel, which is out in the county right-of-way, and put a metal pole up and then put a neon sign with a cocktail glass on top of it, I think, in my opinion, makes no sense at all. It was interesting because the city retained the consultant Roger Brooks, who's been doing the branding. You've probably been reading about it, at least you're in the City of Angels, you've been reading about it. Program for the historic district in Angels Camp. He was asked here, I think a week ago or less than a week ago, what he thought of neon signs either in the historic district of Angels Camp or in Murphy's, and he said he would just be adamantly opposed to that, and that would make no sense whatsoever. He went so far, which I disagree with, as saying he didn't think that neon signs should be allowed to be in the windows. We have lots of neon signs in the windows in Murphy's, particularly in the Arbor project. Murphy's Hotel has lots of, at least in the saloon component, has lots of neon signs. To me, I don't have a problem with that. It's on private property, it's within their building. But if we do what Murphy, the owner of the hotel, is requesting, I don't quite see how you don't set a precedent and would allow any business in Murphy's to take down the tree in front of their establishment, put up a metal pole, and put a neon sign up on top of it, and have it out of the county right away. I'm not in favor of that. I've not been in favor of that from the beginning. When the owner approached me, I don't know, a year ago or better, and asked me about it, I told him at that point I was adamantly opposed. I hope he would not bring it forward. I have not changed my position. The owner has brought it forward, and we're where we are today.
So Lee, do you want to tell us how a libertarian could be opposed to a sign?
Oh, no.
I'll move on to the next question. And Lee, let's start with you. When should the county come in when an unfinished project becomes an eyesore, referring to Jack Couch Bridge to nowhere?
Well, my understanding of that project, which Tom and I received at least an oral update at the Council of Governments meeting on Wednesday, I guess that was a week ago now. The update was that Caltrans had notified the Jack Couch that he had missed the deadline for filing for an extension of the permit, and my understanding subsequently is that they are proceeding to exercise the performance bond to complete the work required. That seems to me long overdue, but that is the process by which the work should be completed, because it is involved in state highway. My information is strictly that which was reported by Dan, who is a representative from Caltrans, to the Council of Governments, and I haven't had any independent verification. But if that's true, then that's the due course. The performance bond is there to ensure that projects are completed so that the public is not overly impacted, and that's the way it should go forward.
Thank you. Tom?
The county has put a lot of pressure on Caltrans to get that intersection completed. People need to understand that the Highway 4 intersection on Big Trees Road that had Caltrans conditions on it for Bret Hart development is a Caltrans project. It's not a county project. Caltrans holds the bond. Caltrans provides the oversight on the Highway 4 component. On the hooking up the bridge to Big Trees Road is a county project. The county is currently holding a substantial bond, I think someplace around $1 million, to see that project through. We did receive a letter from Caltrans. I think every week I talk to Public Works about where are we with Caltrans and getting the intersection completed. We did receive a subsequent letter that said work would commence on the intersection on Highway 4 on September 8th. Well, today's the 10th. I was up in Murphy's putting signs out Monday, which was the 8th, and then there was no work. And Mike Miller, the interim Public Works Director, yesterday at the board meeting said he didn't see any work. But hopefully it will. I just speak with Chuck Hovey, was the speaker from Wines and Vineyards, etc., at Rotary at noon, and he said, well, he saw Jimmy Hurryford out there, he thinks something's going to happen. But I think something will happen this construction season, which has basically about 60 days to go. Jack did speak to the community club back in the spring and said it will be completed by the end of this construction season. And I'm aware that he did request, or I'm told anyway, he did request an extension for Caltrans, and the county said we would be very upset over an extension and it needed to happen. So From all the communications we've had, both from Caltrans and from Jack personally, says that the work should have started last Monday, so hopefully it's going to start at least this week, and hopefully it will be completed this construction season.
Thank you. We'll go to Tom. Tom, how do you reckon, you describe the District 4 constantly in terms of make it clear that you feel that that's your goal, that District 4, and I know all the supervisors feel that they have their first responsibility is to their particular district, and that's natural. How do you feel, though, about your responsibility towards the entire county?
Well, we're elected by district, but we're county supervisors. There's no difference in the state legislature that's elected by district, but passes laws that affect all of the state of California. Or Congress is elected by districts and passes laws that affect all citizens in the United States of America. Since we're elected by district, it's natural that you'll give the highest priority to your district. As being we're elected by district, we tend to defer to some degree, not totally, but tend to defer to the supervisor from the district, let them speak first, let them make the argument of what they would like to see in their district. Most of the time, the board gives great credence to that because they are elected by the citizens in that district. And, if you're not from that district, you weren't elected by the citizens from that district. But it still takes 3 votes of the Board of Supervisors to basically get something passed, get something done. So I do pay a great deal of attention to my district, which is District 4. But quite frankly, I have a significant issue of this in the primary. It should be a significant issue in the general election. I think we need to quit reviewing. I think we need to start looking at the Highway 4 corridor as an integrated whole. I think we will live or die or be successful on the success of the Highway 4 corridor. So I don't think any of us that live on the Highway 4 corridor can isolate ourselves from what's happening in Arnold or what's happening in Copper or what's happening in Angels or what's happening in Murphy's. I think, and that's one of the reasons I'm a very strong advocate of some regionalization on our infrastructure, particularly sewer and water, and that we need to start viewing ourselves as more as residents of the Highway 4 corridor than, we're always going to be first our community. But we will, I think, be successful or be less successful depending on the success of the Highway 4 corridor. So I think that's a critical component going forward. That we're going to have a vision going forward. I think that's going to both accommodate growth and provide some economic vitality and stability, et cetera. So yes, we look at our districts, but for where we are, I think the Highway 4 corridor is absolutely critical. But just the nature of the piece is you're going to pay very close attention to. Yes.
Lee?
Well, I think the question of how we work together in our district has some unique features. When we take the oath of office as a city council member, we're elected at large in the city. We take an oath that swears allegiance to the state and national constitutions. The issue is that when you're running for office, you need to lay out a plan, such as I think I have, about what I would do as the representative, your representative. And then it's clear that many times, in order to make that plan real, you're going to have to work with others outside of the district to make something like the 3 votes on the Board of Supervisors. To make those things real, it means that you have to be aware of the things that unite people. That's a key ingredient. Looking at what brings people together is the foundation for building coalitions and making prudent compromises that allows 3 votes to come together in an effective way to move the public's work forward. That's the feeling I have. It's an important component of being your representative is knowing your interests, your expectations, having the means of you being able to express those in ways which your input is received courteously, openly, and becomes part of a process of bringing a decision together. The boundaries that we use politically in Calaveras County, to some degree, are somewhat arbitrary. I see that particularly in the western side of the county, where you have kind of the natural area of Valley Springs bleeding over into Copperopolis, and it's not really clear where and how you get the one person, one vote balance out of that. I think our district is uniquely benefited because we really have a very core identity. You know, we are the people who live on that portion of Highway 4 between, you might say, sort of natural divides, Bear Mountain and the upcountry. It allows us that we share many characteristics of our environment in common. Our road network kind of links us together better than probably anywhere else in the county. Those are bases that give us the ability to form common cause without losing the distinctive features of each and every one of our communities. The people in Valley Spring, or the people in Douglas Flat, have a history going back with the old Wells Fargo building. I mean, and the gold mining that took place there. Vallecito is very passionate about their identity, and families going back many, I guess probably on average somewhere around 8 generations now. Each of those communities has an integrity and a vitality that I would not want to see compromised. But again, it's what unites us that allows us to work collectively. And if we focus on where our agreements are, rather than allow divisive issues to fragment us, what we'll find is we have both of the best of both worlds. The local autonomy that live in our communities and our neighborhoods the way we want to, but we're able to unite and have the strength to make a significant contribution to county-wide issues in all of the subject matters, water, wastewater, energy.
Thank you. Lee, let's go back to you. Well, let's ask this question. Do you have a question for Tom?
I'm used to set this up by mentioning that at the board meeting on Tuesday, there was Mike Miller did present his update to the issues and opportunities plan, component of the general plan, and I taken the number right out of his comments, and that is, Tom, what are you going to do in the next 4 years about the growing maintenance problems of the county's 689 miles of road and the related drainages that is different from what you've done in the past 24 years? Well, I don't know that it's so different. We have limited amounts of resources to go in the roads. The first thing I've always been advocate of is obviously if you have limited resources and unlimited needs, you better prioritize the resources. So the first position of advocacy I hold is that we have a pavement management system that sort of judges the conditions of roads over periods of time. My first priority are the county major collectors. Those would be roads like the Murphy's Grade Road, Mountain Ranch Road, I think Harris Ferry Road, Burns Ferry Road, etc. My second highest priority is to maintain the minor collectors, where we still have significant traffic. My third priority is to maintain the residential streets within the community centers. When you get out beyond that, it's basically sort of patch and do the best you can. When you get out on San Domingo Road, Dogtown Road, we have lots of roads, quite frankly, that are just gravel roads, don't have a lot of traffic, and
and we're not going to dedicate a lot of resources to them. So we need to prioritize as best we can. The board adopted a road improvement fee for new development. That's bringing in a substantial amount of money. But new development, when you collect fees for new development, it has to be as a consequence under state law of the impacts of that new development. We basically have a deficit in the amount of money needed to bring roads up to what we would call current standards, although it's nothing like the number that we, in my opinion, throws out. That's if we took San Domingo Road and our gravel roads, Hogan Dam Road and everything, and brought them up to a sea level road, which isn't going to happen, and quite frankly, shouldn't happen in the near future. Preserve our rural way of life. But we are collecting the money we can. We do not get anywhere near as much money as the city does for roads. If you look at the power structure in California, the most significant and most powerful, I don't know if you want to use the word special interest, but lobbying force is the League of Cities. We belong to CSAC, which is the State Association of Counties. Counties have very little political power compared to cities. Something like 70–80% of the population of California lives in the major metropolitan areas. They're heavily Democratic. People who live in rural areas, such as ourselves, tend to be Republican. All of our representatives are Republican. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the Democrats are going to take care of their constituency, and they do. And the cities get a heck of a lot more money than unincorporated counties. And that's just the simple reality of how it is in California. And if we were heavily Republican, it would be the Republican constituency that would get it, I have little doubt. And the state has budget problems. That tend to raid the road funds, particularly for the counties, to help balance state budgets. So we're going to continue to prioritize. We're going to continue to look for additional funding. We have the Highway 4 bypass that's being completed. The next project on our list is the wagon trail project between here and Copper. The next one is for the Highway 4 corridor in the City of Angels will be Highway 49 bypass. We haven't even started on looking at the alignments for that yet, which I think needs to start at some point in the near future, although it probably will not get completed in our lifetimes if it takes the 50 years to have a 4 bypass. But we need to do what we can to maintain roads, and what you do is you gather the money you have and you prioritize it.
Thank you, Tom. Talk about government money. I have two questions, similar. What will you do we'll start with you, Tom. What will you do to increase the availability of mass transit in Calaveras County?
Well, I'm one that thinks you have to have accountability when you spend money. There's no reason to increase mass transit if you don't have ridership. We have routes that have a fair amount of ridership, and then we have routes that have very little ridership. There used to be almost a religious mantra about mass transit, and by running transit buses around, we're sort of saving the planet, or whatever we're saving. We have one route that I argued long and hard and finally got the board to abandon or to cease. It was a route to West Point that was costing us $125 a passenger. We had a $1 fare box return, which means there's probably a passenger, 2 passengers a week on this daily route. We had one route that we were paying $75 a passenger to. It was a night route to Columbia Junior College. I think it was a 9 p.m. Something like that. And it's, you go and you do these unmet transit needs, and the people that show up for the unmet transit needs are not the people particularly that ride the bus. It's a lot of social welfare agencies that are great advocates. And state law has put in that you have to use a certain amount of funds, particularly from the local transportation LTF funds, and you need to meet your unmet transit needs first. Well, you know, if you're basically getting it for nothing, it's hard to say you ever meet everybody's needs, because everybody likes something for nothing. And you know, the fare box is $1. It probably costs somewhere between $10 and $12 to transport an individual around in the county. Yet on these big buses, it only takes either 2 or 3 passengers to meet a 10% fare box recovery, which means you're losing 90 cents on every dollar. So I'm not for just expanding it just because this is sort of a religious tenet that we should just expand transit. I think we should manage it, just like we manage any resources. And the money that doesn't go into transit from the LTF funds goes into roads. So you can be, you know, we can say he's all for transit, and what are we doing about roads? But, you know, we're moving money that would otherwise go into roads and to transit. We thought, Bob was the Public Works Director, Public Works manages transit, we thought, well, we can spend this money a lot more wisely than just running empty transit buses around. So he came up with an idea, and I supported it, and he took it to the board, and we got it to pass, that any excess LPF monies that weren't spent on transit, we would spend on bicycle and pedestrian paths in the community centers. And we thought, well, you know, environmentalists will like that. And it doesn't matter. All they want is transit. And there's, you know, I don't think we've hardly spent $1 of that LPF money on bicycle and pedestrian paths in the community centers. So, you know, I'm not against transit. I just think, you know, it shouldn't be a welfare transit system. It needs to make sense. We need to get a fare box recovery that makes sense, and that we need to rationally manage the transit system. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Well, Tom, you and I both currently represent our agencies on the county, the Calaveras County Council of Governments. In doing that, we take on a responsibility to deal with the tasks that are presented and required of us under the various legislations and the joint powers agreements that created the agency. I can remember you took me the task one night, along with everyone else. You didn't single me out, although I wouldn't have necessarily objected to being singled out, because you criticized us for failing to perform our civic responsibilities, because we were we weren't reading our agendas, we weren't studying the materials that came before us. At that time, I told you were wrong, and I particularly personally resented being accused of not doing my homework, because I do take the time to read and study the legislation and understand the financial and legal requirements under which I'm performing that important regional community job. I particularly objected to your characterization for the public members. We have 3 public members on the COG, and they do not serve in any other, necessarily any other civic capacity. And they're doing this really as volunteer work, community service work, if you wish. I felt that it was very unfair to accuse them of doing that. And you just went through a description of unmet transit needs, how they're established, what the legal framework for fare box recovery, what the operational responsibilities of the county government are, that specifically Public Works to operate the bus system. I would say that most of what you described doesn't fit with or purport with the facts. I think the responsibility is to understand the Transportation Development Act, which is the controlling document, the controlling legislation that explains in some considerable detail exactly what the county and the city can do with the monies that are provided under the Transportation Development Act. The Transportation Act requires the development, an assessment of whether there are unmet transit needs. To establish whether there are unmet transit needs, there is a procedure to be followed. That procedure is outlined in some considerable detail again, and it has been, particularly in the last few years, it's received commendations as being run by the COG at an exceptionally well-balanced level. It is not welfare people who came to the city council when we hosted one of the unmet transit needs surveys. It is not welfare or non-bus riders who showed up as the COG meeting where that was one of the unmet transit needs. It was people in handicapped, it was school children, it was moms talking about how the system allows them to get their groceries, it was the elderly, it was a wide range of the people who make up our community. I think you do a serious disservice when you try to characterize, it's not a mass transit system, it's a public transit system. The monies that are there are specifically earmarked to accommodate people who are transportation challenged. That's not the same thing as saying you're on welfare. A person who's got a medical need, and the only way they can get to Sonora Regional Hospital because they can't drive themselves there, that doesn't make them a welfare recipient, that makes them a person in need. I feel that, and if at the present time, if we failed to operate the Calaveras bus system, we would forego over $500,000 in tax money being returned to the county. I think you need to get the facts right about what the service of public transit is in Calaveras County. Maybe you need to write the system.
Since Lee went over, am I allowed to respond to a little bit of that private?
Lee, are you okay with that? If he responds? Sure. Tom, I'll tell you what, on one of your other questions, if you want to take leave a little room up. Sure. And I also apologize to the person who wrote this next question. I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit. If I abbreviate too much, you grab me afterwards and upgrade me or do whatever you want. But Lee, this will go to you, but it was addressed to Tom. You're short. What obligations does a member of the board have to demonstrate respect toward those with whom you disagree?
Well, I think the question of civility is very important. You know, the issue is not, do I attack somebody's personality or somebody's beliefs. It's a question of what's on the record. When an item comes onto the public record, we're entitled to exchange and differ on those records. It's okay. I expect to be held accountable for what I say in any public forum. If people disagree with me, that's their right. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to not be able to talk to that person in a civil manner any place else I meet them. And it's not a question of not even being civil when we're in that discussion itself. The responsibility is that the public has a right to approach any member of the public government, to have them listen to them, to be attentive to them, and to respect their right to speak. That's what I expect that out of myself, and I expect that out of my colleagues.
I think we all agree that in a public forum, to the extent possible, respect and civility of different people's opinions are important. I think probably what the gist of the question is to go back to some of the issues that the Board of Supervisors, that the grand jury addressed, that the board addressed, that I addressed. And it's not a question of civility, in my opinion. It's a clear question of wrongdoing. And basically, basic issues that needed to be decided by the Board of Supervisors didn't even come to the Board of Supervisors, but were decided outside of board chambers. And at some point, someone has to speak up. And I spoke up, and I thought it was wrong. I still think it was wrong. What happened there, the grand jury felt it was wrong. And sometimes you have a moral obligation to speak out, even when it presents very difficult challenges. And that's what I did. Okay.
Lee, as a supervisor, what can you do to improve the economy of Calaveras County?
Well, I think one of the things that we started with the joint meeting between the City Council and the Board of Supervisors was the Joint Economic Development Summit. We brought, I think, about 160 plus people into this facility, and we spent a solid day working on a variety of issues and opportunity areas. There are continuing subgroups coming out of that meeting that are looking at different economic opportunities. As a supervisor, I would continue to bring the economic leaders of our communities, city, county, all of our communities together in a way that would continue the momentum that we started at that summit meeting. It's really important that leadership doesn't always mean control. Sometimes the leader simply is the group of individuals who bring us together so that we can identify our common cause and work towards plans that allow us to move different kinds of projects forward. Economic vitality comes by balancing a wide range, not just one industry versus another, but trying to keep all of the economic engines running kind of in a similar pace. And the best way of doing that is creating the kind of cross-fertilization that comes when ideas are exchanged and people have an opportunity to network together and begin to go forward. That's really, if you think about it, somebody mentioned the value of the Silicon Valley nearby. If you think about it, that was the genius of the Silicon Valley, in that it allowed many people to come together and work on very differing kinds of projects and finding common cause rather than trying to divide them and isolate them.
Thank you. Tom?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. As a supervisor, what can you do to improve the economy of Calaveras County?
Well, the first thing to do is get the county government to work in a timely and efficient manner. And we haven't been doing that. That was a component of the problems we have. I mean, there's no sense attracting business or trying to attract business, et cetera, if you can't process an application. We're hopefully doing much better now, but it hasn't been very long. We still have some staffing shortfalls and the like. As far as government doing sort of its part, I trust more in the market system as far as, I'm not a real big keen fan on the government's going to plan our economy for us. I think the marketplace has a lot more to do with our economy, but we have to do our share. I think one of the things we could certainly go after is a lot more of the retail dollars. I mean, I think that's the pretty sort of low-hanging fruit, to just basically start with those basic services that service the constituency of the Highway 4 corridor. And like I said, I think Angels Camps and Natural people from San Andreas and District 1 would come here if we had an attractive shopping opportunity for them. So to me, the low-hanging fruit is to get the things that service our own constituency that we're not doing, as opposed to saying, oh, we're going to bring in a new constituency, or we're going to bring in a new factory, or we're going to bring in a new economic opportunity. I think we should start with the economic opportunities of servicing our own constituency for the needs they have, particularly within the Highway 4 and the San Andreas period.
Thank you. Talking on that subject, with somebody out there in the audience has a technical expertise that I don't have. You're asking about they're saying Calaveras County has a very slow internet speed, and they would, they say, how can we be competitive with the slow internet speed, and what can you do about it? Can you force Comcast, AT&T to build a system? And so let's see, that's what it'll lead.
Well, I don't think we can force them to build a system. The current project that is headed up by an agency I used to work for, the Amateur Quality Community Action Agency, is got a grant to do rural community access to the internet for underserved areas. This is a program that has had pretty dramatic success, particularly back in the Midwest, where you have very similar rural environments, and areas like Kentucky and Tennessee are kind of high on their list of examples. So it's a proven track record of how you can bring high-speed internet access into rural areas using advanced technology. The project just had a kickoff. I attended the kickoff meeting up at Couts at Ironstone, and it was, I thought, a good launch point, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to identify exactly what the unserved areas are, and then to bring a package together. And this is where I think a key ingredient is. This is not a government-built solution. This is then a package that is put out for bid, and the service providers, including the telephone companies and other new players in the market, come in and they bid to provide that internet service access. That's a project that I continue to support, and believe that it is our best shot for meeting the unserved needs of internet users.
Thank you, Tom.
Just came up, I think Ross Alford asked the forum in Murphy's in the spring during the primary, and Ross lives at the end of Love Creek Road, is out in the middle of nowhere. And I said that I'm very much in favor, and I think it's just, to me, that's just basic infrastructure, that we have high-speed internet access, and we've been talking about economic growth, et cetera. I think that's an area where we would have a competitive advantage, where people can work at home from their computer and still have our basic quality of life. So I think there's a huge economic component to that, along with just the basic informational component. But I think we need to obviously emphasize the community centers, and we have lots of them along the Highway 4 corridor. I think the Highway 4 corridor will be very competitive for that, and I think it should be a very high priority. Thank you.
Thank you. We're running out of time, and as always, I've got many more questions, and I'm sorry we can't get to all of them. I'd like to let the candidates give each of you a few minutes to kind of sum up your positions and make any other statements you'd like. And so, Tom, let's start with you.
Okay, well, I guess maybe I could respond to these comments a little bit here. I've always sort of been puzzled by the argument that the folks that ride the transit system would not be able to get around if we didn't have a transit system, because I think it was 8 years ago or something, 10 years ago, whenever we started the transit system, we never had anybody asking for a transit system. We ran some buses for seniors to the senior center to eat meals. That was the extent of our transit system. When we started the transit system, we had a lady come before us and say, "My God, the seniors, what are the seniors going to do? The seniors essentially need to have a transit system," and she was just a huge advocate of the transit system. And then we had somebody come over from the senior center and say, "Well, we have a whole lineup of volunteers, and if a senior needs to go to Lodi to medicine or go shopping, etc., you just call the senior center, and we'll sometimes send out one of our volunteers," because they had a very strong volunteer organization put together to service seniors. And so we started the transit system, and then it had to be, interconnected, and it had to be all these things. Well, it cost lots of money. I don't mind the TDA money, the Transit Development Act money, but I don't see why we have to send so much of the LTF money, which can be going to pedestrian and bicycle paths in community centers, or so choose back into roads. If we could constrain it basically to the TDA money, that's fine. Let's do that. At least, in my opinion, let's use the money that can only be used for transit. Nobody's saying send money back. I'm not saying send money back, but I think we could manage it instead of just being sort of an advocate or a cheerleader for it. I think we have, this is real money. I mean, I don't know, $1 million or better a year, I guess, now it's going into transit. I mean, we're talking real money here. It doesn't get very much oversight. We're supposed to have a 10% fare box recovery to even meet the TDA requirement. Well, quite frankly, I think in most years we don't have the 10%. We don't this year. And quite frankly, what it's living off of, so they can try to meet the 10% fare box recovery, is the run that goes from Valley Springs to Bear Valley for skiing. And all the other runs, I think it's $1 or $1.50 people pay. Well, on the Bear Valley run, and they can pay $10 because they're going up to go skiing. So that shoots, the averages way up and skewers what's really happening within the transit system. When they first started the transit system, they grossly miscalculated what the requirements were, and they were including revenues as fare box in the fare box recovery ratio that the statute says it could not include. So it has not been a well-managed system. Most people don't know really much about it. Most people don't ride the transit system. But I guess my problem is that we're talking real money and it should be managed. I don't think that's asking too much to provide some management rather than just advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
Okay. I would say, I just point out in response to Tom's comment that the Public Works manages the transit system, not the COG. But I do want to wrap up. This is a rare opportunity, I think, to come together and have the public ask questions and to listen to our different takes on the policies and the issues that confront our community. Our district is an absolutely fabulous place. I've never doubted for a moment that Marilyn and I made the right decision in selecting to live here. We will continue to live here regardless of how the voters, how you decide to have this supervisory decision made. I believe that we are a strong community with a foundation that we can build a great lifestyle, a great way of providing jobs and educating our children and growing old and enjoying the benefits that we're blessed with here. This election won't make the place either an awful place or a paradise. We will continue to have to meet challenges. I believe that I offer a plan of action based on experience in both public and private employment, and that it is an opportunity to fulfill a dream of serving in the community that I live in. I ask for your vote because I think the next 4 years will be important years for all of us. And they will also be years that we will have an opportunity to get things right before the upcome, and we run the risk of being inundated by unmanaged, unplanned, uncoordinated growth in the future. So thank you for your participation here tonight.
I'd like to thank David Duggan. He's the theater manager here, and he was here for us tonight. And this is a wonderful place for any community to be able to gather. I'm always impressed by the courage of people who stand up, like Tom Tryon and Lee Seaton, and put themselves forward as candidates for public office and their desire to serve the public. And I know both of these men, and I have great respect for both of them. So I'd like to thank you very much, fellas, for coming up here tonight, and thank you folks for coming out.